Welcome to Vegan Ultra. I'm your inspiration guide, Adam Gals, on this epic quest for health, hope, and happiness, in which I lose 150 pounds in 12 months on a whole food vegan diet while walking 3,000 miles to prove to myself, my family, and everyone watching on YouTube that we can all become the ultra versions of ourselves if we give it a chance and are powered by plants. Today is the first part of a mini-series called Hope for a Hopeless World, because we all know the world is in dire need of saving. But of course, we have wonderful people working with the best available science, technology, and working together, we can and will save the world. So let's talk about in our first episode, based on my annual company's charity focus article. This is what I do for a day job. I co-founded a financial analyst company that helps subscribers to achieve their financial goals through the world's best blue chip safe income sources. Dividend companies, retirement portfolios built around real estate, passive income, and so forth. Well, this year we highlighted Ben Franklin and his pioneering work in investing to give. Now, Ben Franklin, of course, famous as one of the founding fathers, a statesman, a scientist, a prolific inventor, even a womanizer. But most people don't realize he also pioneered the role of philanthropy. Specifically, when he died in 1790, he left $2,000, which was $28,000 adjusted for inflation, to his favorite cities of Boston and Philadelphia. But for 100 years, they couldn't touch the money. It was invested in bonds. And after 100 years, they could start making various donations, but they couldn't access the full funds until 200 years later. Now, this, of course, invested in bonds, 2.8% inflation adjusted. But what if this had been invested in the stock market? Now, mind you, New York Stock Exchange wasn't invented until 1792, so he couldn't have done this. But let's say you could have invested in the U.S. stock market. Well, for 200 years, according to BlackRock, about 7% inflation-adjusted return. So what would that $28,000 investment be worth? In 1990, at the 200-year mark, $21.4 billion. And that was in 1990. Today, it would be worth about $200 billion. Now, to give you an idea of that kind of scale, the entire budget for Philadelphia and Boston is $10 billion a year. So if you were to take 5% of this fund each year, you could basically run these cities of Philly and Boston completely with zero taxes, all the services they have. And this is basically how the idea of sovereign wealth funds works. The famous world's largest sovereign wealth fund is the Government Pension Fund of Norway. $1.5 trillion, owns 1.5% of all the stocks in the world. And the average Norwegian has $270,000 per person due to this. But, of course, how does this actually apply to the real world? Well, one of my clients sent me this information. Says I inspired him to create $1 million leveraged charity hedge fund based on the various strategies that I've been teaching. So, what does it actually mean? About a 4% yielding blue chip portfolio with currently analysts expect about 14% historical and future returns. So I did a detailed analysis to look at how likely is this to actually work. And it's actually about 96% likely. It's targeting 20% annual long-term returns. And that is what it has achieved historically, about 19 to 20% annually since 2007, before the Great Recession began. So what does that actually mean? Well, if you take a look at the risk of failure, about 0.3%, the probability of success, 96%, as close to a guarantee as exists in the real world. So how does that bring hope to a hopeless world? Well, remember, Ben Franklin achieved incredible success with investing to give, with bonds earning less than 3%. So what if you can achieve even a fraction of the 20% that this portfolio from my client has been set up to achieve for charity? Well, First, let's take a look at the most effective charities according to GiveWell. The #1 way of saving a life, Helen Keller International, $4,000 and just $2,000 during a match campaign, which is running through the end of the year. So let's take a look at this client's hedge fund set up to donate 5% to charity each year. You can see how this grows exponentially over time after the first 10 years, more than tripling the annual donations. But look at the cumulative donations, and this is all inflation adjusted. Within 10 years, nearly the entire initial investment of $500,000 donated into charity, saving 242 children's lives. And that's only after 10 years. The next 10 years, nearly 1,000 more children saved. Now we're looking at 2.3 million cumulative donation. After 30 years, 4,500 children saved. And what about the long term? 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 100 years. Remember, we're looking at Ben Franklin level timeframes, a perpetual charitable trust, cumulative donations over 100 years of almost $90 billion. And this is all adjusted for inflation. Now, of course, this one charity alone can't actually use that much money. They can only basically $800 million would save that problem of saving 200,000 children a year. Clean Air Task Force is the next best way of saving a life for the lowest cost. Malaria and vaccinations. So overall, you could save about 2 million lives per year at a cost of $9.3 billion. That is quite impressive, showing the scalability of investing to give. But you can see that over a 200-year time frame, what Ben Franklin is talking about, cumulative donations rising into the trillions, in fact, quadrillions. Now, of course, this kind of compounding is not actually going to work at that speed for 200 years, but you can see what the impact potentially is. This is essentially kind of what my 500-year family plan is, inspired by Gene Roddenberry. We are trying to actually build a Star Trek utopia by first solving the world's major problems through effective charity, and eventually we will use our family fortune to actually build the capital of the United Federation of Sentience, an actual Star Trek utopia. But again, this is not within my lifetime. This is simply something that my family's foundation will set up. So that's the point, is that me, this client, a whole lot of other people, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a whole lot of other perpetual trusts and endowments, harnessing the powers of global capitalism to help save the world's biggest problems. And of course, this can be applied to anything. For example, Physicians Committee, their annual budget is $16 million. So imagine if you don't have to donate millions of dollars, just 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. That is a significant impact for the team that Dr. Barnard leads, that is doing all the incredible work on clinical trials and the benefits of a plant-based diet, pushing for better, smarter policies for nutrition guidelines, and of course, to take animal testing out of medicine. And that's just one example. Clean Air Task Force, for example, if you donate just $1,000, that is offsetting 1,000 tons of carbon, approximately 12 average American families worth of carbon. And for $4,400, you could save a life by offsetting that much carbon. So there you have it, how investing to give is a way that almost anybody can become a real-life superhero. Because while my client here is looking at a $500,000 portfolio, $25,000 donation in the first year, if you have $50,000, well, that's still $2,500. Remember, that is saving more than one life through Helen Keller's match campaign and offsetting 2,500 tons of carbon. That's around 350 families worth. So you can see how investing to give can make anybody a super philanthropist. And over time, the magic of compounding, Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world, and it truly is. So thank you for watching. I hope this has given you hope for a hopeless world. and it brightens your holidays just a bit. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video to help other people find it on YouTube, and consider trying a Blue Zone vegan lifestyle. This is science-based magic and nutrition-fueled sorcery that's helped me to lose 92 pounds in 23 weeks, on the way to losing 150 pounds in a year, while becoming the healthiest and happiest version of myself, even though my life is a mess. This truly can help almost anyone become the Captain America version of ourselves and create our own utopia, even in a messed up world, if you give it a chance and are powered by plants.